Hope my screen is visible, right? Am I audible to everyone? Yeah. Good morning, everyone. So far we just started about the Spring Boot, and we learned that how to create Spring Boot application using Spring Initializer, Spring versus Spring Boot. We understand what actually problems we have with Spring when we want to create application generating skeleton or identifying dependencies. That all little difficulty to us, whereas Spring Boot made it simple with the Spring starters. So that too we can pick starters and we can create any Spring Boot application, any Spring application with the Spring Initializer, or we can use STS also. Or using STS, we can create a project skeleton that is very simple to us. And we can use all IOC features when we add starters, right? There are so many starters, right? There are bunch of starters. There are bunch of starters. Main importantly, we have Spring default starter, Spring Boot starter, which is a default. When we use this default starter, we can use all IOC or Spring Core features. It will provide Spring Core features, AOP, and testing. Along with them, Log4j it is providing. Okay, so default Log4j dependency is also being added, so we can use them as well. Okay, we learned how to use IOC, basic IOC using Spring Boot, right? Using basic IOC features means hardly what we will use. We use stereotype annotations like @component, or its child annotations like we can use @controller or @repository or @service. All these basic stereotypes I can use. Configuration, @bean I can use, @profiles we can use. We understand how to use profiles also, right? @value we can use to read property from properties file. @value we can use. @autowired I can use. Okay, so there are so many annotations that are available. We can use them. @autowired and Spring Boot application, just to load all our classes into IOC container. We use Spring Boot application on a main method class, and when we load that particular class into Spring application.run, it is loading all your classes from the mentioned package or from child packages, whichever the main package you have this Spring Boot application is in. From child packages also it is able to load all your classes and it is able to create objects to them. So I can use all basic annotations which are necessary for my application using this basic Spring Boot starter itself. When you want to make it a web application, then you need to add one more starter, Spring Boot starter web. If you want to make it web, if it is a standalone application, for which use cases we can use this default starter for standalone, any standalone jobs if you want to create, right? If you want to create any standalone application, you can use this Spring Boot feature. Okay, so for any standalone. which are running in single machine or same machine. Okay, so you can use. Recently, I used this Spring Boot only. I mean, not even web. Simple Spring Boot starter we have used for generating or to prepare a job. Actually, we created. Okay, to create a job, not exactly job also. Um, to process data actually, to process data from CSV file to database. We used it. CSV file to database. Generally, when you see a big organization, right, it will have lot of systems. They may get feeds from one application, may get feed from another application, or application may get feed from different marketplaces. Okay, when we ask, let's say I have or I am running a e-commerce, I want to sell my products, so I want to know the interest of people, what they wanted to purchase. Generally we do research on Google or Facebook, right? So Google and Facebook will record our research or our interest is, and they will send that interest to, I mean, as a e-commerce provider, I can buy that data from Google APIs or from Facebook. They will share that data to us, or else we can post advertisements in Google uh, by using Google APIs or by using Facebook APIs. We can advertise whoever showing interest, right? For them, they will show the data. So if I have such information, some system is providing to me in the form of raw file. I want to read data. I want to read data and refine that data. I want to read that data and refine it. Maybe that data may have a lot of junk. I want to refine it. And later I want to store it into my database. So maybe that data via reports, my business will understand via reports my business will understand, and they may do better things. Okay, to understand market, a lot of similar applications we will have in many organizations, right? They will get a lot of raw data from marketplaces, they will read and they will analyze, and they will generate some reports so that they will understand based on the data which they are getting, right? They will understand their business. Okay, so for such applications also we can use default starter, as it is providing all the required necessary annotations to process or to create a complete MVC application. Complete in the sense, no controllers here. Okay, as this is not a web, the remaining part you can implement. Okay, the remaining part you can implement to store into database. Maybe you can use JDBC in case if you want to use Spring Boot based JDBC. You may need to add one more extra dependency that we will see. Okay, so for such use case, right, we have used Spring Data JPA to store into DB. That is the next part. Okay, we will see. So for any standalone, you can use the Spring Boot default starter. Okay. So we understand these many annotations that are available. We can use them to create simple standalone. Okay. All default IOC features we can use. Along with them, we have AOP, right? We will see that AOP in next sessions maybe. I'll show you how to use this default logs. Not only this, right? We can apply logging also. We can apply logging also. Real-time logging we can apply, as by default it is providing default log. As it is providing by default log, just you need to add, if you go through this documentation, right, they are clearly given how to add log also. Spring Boot documentation. Just to search Spring features or Spring Boot features. Not this one. Yeah, you can keep this with you. Okay, this link I'm just sharing. So here they given a lot of features, startup failures. When we look into the startup failure, right? They're telling that when application failed to start, it will show clear description. Earlier, your Spring may not showing this stack like this, the failure stack, but in Spring Boot they are saying your application fails to start. Register failure analyzer, get a chance to provide dedicated error messages and a concrete actions to fix the problems. For instance, if you start web application on port number 8080 and the port is already in use, you should say something similar to this message. Something application failed to start. Some error log they are printing with the failure analyzer. Maybe you can implement your own by using this failure analyzer so that you can print. They will post the exception. You can print the message in whichever format you want. Generally, when I run a Spring Boot application, you are seeing a Spring Boot banner and exceptions, right? You can customize them on top of Spring Boot if you are creating your own framework or your own application. If you don't want their banner, if you don't want their error log, if you want to customize them, okay. Few people will customize, few people will use as is because unnecessarily we are spending time to customizations. But if, in case if you want, you can customize it. Okay, when I run Spring Boot application, I'll show you log example, okay? But let me show you this failure log. For instance, if I run this, Spring Boot is showing their own banner here. This is what we call Spring Boot banner. Generally, when we run any Spring application or Go Java applications, we never see such banners. So here you can see clearly Spring Spring. They are showing with Spring Boot and the version name also they are showing here. So this banner we can customize. In case if there is any error, they are telling that you can customize that error also using failure analyzer. Okay, I'm not going to discuss everything here, but if you follow this documentation, right, clearly they have given how to implement things on your own, even for customizing banner also. They're telling that if you can implement your own analyzer, my failure analyzer, let's say if you want to keep exceptions into a database or somewhere instead of printing in console, maybe you need to failure analyzer is not a, is it not a class? Okay, there are many implementations they are suggesting. Acha. So they given instructions. Failure analyzer is a great way to intercept an exception on startup and turn it into a human readable message wrapped in failure analysis. Spring Boot provides such analyzer for the application. Abstract failure analyzer is a convenient extension of failure analyzer, checks the presence of specified exception. So maybe you can implement this class. Okay, and failure analyzer implementations must be registered. They're telling it should be part of Spring.Factories. The following example registered project constraint violation failure analyzer, something like this. Inside this file, do we need to override? Maybe. Okay. Troubleshoot auto configurations, creating non-web applications, which we are talking about. Properties configuration. Yeah, we'll see. So, for instance, you can implement like this abstract analyzer. They are telling, right? So, extends abstract abstract failure analyzer. So this method will be executed when there is a failure, so that you can put your own logs instead of showing, its own logs. You can print your own logs using log4j or SOP. Do whatever you want. So here, and they're telling that you need to keep this class into factories. By default, we have Spring Boot configuration. There we saw one Spring Factories file, right? I don't think it will allow us to edit it, but maybe the same property you can configure. Same property you may configure in properties file. Conditional evolution report logging design. There are so many. See this one. Failure analyzer. Oh my god, there are so many. And this is not editable file. Um, Maybe we need to add one more extra property using this as a key. If I can keep it in properties file, right? Maybe you can do this. I'm not confident, but yeah, you may guys try like this, okay? And server dot port. Okay, not required by now. But if I put any error myself, if I put any error here or any internal errors, prefix, everything looks good. If I make it something void, will it allow? Configuration problem. At the rate bin should not have void. It is not showing my message, but it should be. Okay. Maybe somewhere we need to override configurations, or you may need to override. If we do a little more, research, right, we can find it out. But yeah, this is not the context. We will discuss maybe later. So in this documentation, you have lot of such information. Now we are learning about logging. We want to see logging here. Default log back is added. Yeah. Spring Boot uses Commons logging for all internal logging, but levels underlying log implementation open. Default configurations are provided for Java util logging or log4j and log back as well. So if you want to add log back file, so log levels you can keep like this: logging dot level, warning from root level. For Spring Web related, if you want to put only debugging, and for Hibernate, if you want to put error, and log level dot your own package name if you can put here, and for only your package classes only if you want to execute logging info only or logging debug only, you can customize it. Okay, using these properties. I hope you are understanding it right. After debug logging dot level, if you configure your packages, you can customize. Instead of log dot level directly, we have is equal to, if you put warning, it will execute warning for everything log level. If you want to customize that, you can use your package names here, so that it will execute the specified logging level for you. Log shader routes, logging configuration. Yeah. So if you see, we can add logback.spring.xml file or logback.xml file, or if you want to use log4j2, you can use log4j2 spring xml or log4j2.xml, or Java based logging. If you want to use, you can use logging.properties. These are our options we have. For them, you need not to add any specific dependencies here. Let's say I want to use logback. So find out how to use logback XML. So let me show you. If I add to same application, right? If I add logback file here, by default logback is applied to you. Just let me get one logback file and add it here. Logback.xml file. I'll explain you how it works. Okay. So I'll just copy one properties file, or properties logback spring XML file. As they suggested, just I'm using one logback spring. Okay, just keep it into your resources. Logback spring.xml file. Okay, need not to add any other dependencies. Okay, so if you observe this file, here we have logback configurations. Okay, as per logback framework, property name, logging path. So in the current directory, I want to create .logs file, and the file name application underscore logback. In this folder, I want to generate application logback, or you can put your required file name. And along with the writing logs into this properties or into this logback file. I want to show log in console as well. So while showing console output, which appender, console appender, again logback implementation only. Pattern layout while printing, how do you want to print? Something a pattern, colors, first characters white, then next highlight with yellow if it is throwable. I'm not sure what this pattern is. If you explore more logback, right, you can understand. Yeah. And coming to file name pattern, rolling file name appender, how it is useful is, let's say if your file size is exceeding, logging continuously, writing into log file. So when it is exceeds, I want to generate a new log file, or I want to keep a backup of it, or while creating my file along with the date I want to create it. Okay, so here it is showing in this log path, it will generate a log file in this pattern. It will generate with the date, month, year, YYYMMM, DD, hours, minutes, seconds. It will create a file. So when you want to archive it after exceeding some size, let's say after 10 MB of log, I want to create a new file, because to analyze, if it generates GBs of file, I can't analyze it quickly. So once it exceeds, it will keep that particular log file into archived folder. So that archived file folder name also you can give here, and your same log file will be generated as a backup file in this folder. And log levels you can configure. Logging file, log level info for the logging file and the console output as well. And logging level trace, something you may give package name here. So for that particular package, maybe you can give tracing. Okay, explore more about logback, but this is the default file that I copied from somewhere. Okay, now just you need to add that log file and start using log4j into your application. We have created lot many classes here, right? So you can use logging here. Let's say inside this method I want to create log. You can create logger factory dot get logger, right? There is a method logger factory dot get logger, I believe. Let's see. Yeah. Logger factory dot get logger. So here you can create your logs. Basic logger dot info, before method or after method. Usually we add information, right? This method started execution with so and so parameters, and this method completed its execution with so and so parameters. In case of exceptions, we put log. If you want to provide any warnings, we can create log. Okay, so create date method, started execution, completed. So you may put similar log in all the places where you want. So in two places we have this logging info. So you can initialize in class level. Yeah, that's it. Now if I run this application, default log level would be log info only. I think I can get that. So I'm running this application. So now if you see, all these patterns got changed. Earlier we didn't see such colors. Now it is showing it in a different colors. And the logs which we created date method, completed execution, create date method, started execution, create db date. So this is all it is showing, the log. And must be one file created in your log folder. In current directory it will create one log folder. If you can see the physical directory, right, of this project, there will be one log file also created. Yeah, one fresh folder created at 9 a.m. Here one file got created which is size 1 KB. So our log got recorded, so that when there is a issue in your application, especially in production, right, we will ask logs from the production team or DevOps team. They will provide logs. They will provide logs to us, so that we will analyze what happened to our application. Just through logs also we can understand, right? When we print errors, information, warnings and all properly, we can easily able to inspect what happened to our application. So this default log, right? The default log which has been provided, you can use it. You need not to add even a single dependency. Just you need to provide log back file. Yeah. In each individual class, you need to declare it. If you use AOP, right, that is a different stuff. But generally, right, in each class level, we declare this variable and we will use it. Okay. There are so many ways. There is no thumb rule that you need to keep here or you need to keep somewhere. Okay. But this is the general approach. Okay. Yeah. While using AOP, in case if you don't want even keep logs here, need not. Actually, I have 1,000+ classes here. Throughout all my classes, I don't want to put this logs like this. It's okay. You need not to do that. In UOP, we have on the fly, without writing code here. Also, you can put a code that will execute by default, though you didn't place in your methods. Also, it will execute. I'll show you in UOP. Okay. how better we can use it. Yeah. So like this logback file, they have given some other options here, right? You can try them. You can use file name logback hyphen spring XML or logback.xml also. Okay. They given some groovy option also. I'm not sure how it works, but you can try for logback. So if you want to use log4j based configurations, you can use this. So by default, I believe based on your file name, it will use that particular framework. If you configure logback, I believe it is using logback framework internally. Okay. If you use log4j framework. Depending on the file which you have added in your resources folder, it is picking up that particular framework, right, to create your logs. Yeah. So log levels, right? You can try that log levels also. If you want to put log level, here you can add them. Logging level in your properties file. Logging dot level, again given dot org dot spring framework. For all spring framework classes, I want to use logging info. You can use it. For my custom classes, which are like com.rbu, I want to use something raw. You can put like this, okay? Or by default for everything log level equal to debug. You can specify that, I believe. Logging level, maybe just simple dot debug. So based on the logging level which you have configured here, it will generate logs. I believe you know, right? Log level, logging one, logging debug. Many types of logs we can put. So just log level info configured. So information level logs printing. Okay, for debug. If you run in debug mode, maybe debug logs also it will create. Or only error if I put. Each log level will execute based on, right, the configuration which you have done here. If you configure error might allow information and debug and error as well. If you put only info, it might not execute warnings or debugging everything. Okay, based on the level, you can check what are all levels you have, and you can use that all debug options in your code. Log options you can use here. Not only info, if you check here, right, logger dot, you have debug. You can put a debug message here. Logger dot debug, logger dot warn, error, what else we have, raise So change these options, okay, change these options to info error log and check what are all log messages it is giving. So when it is info, I can see info warn error only. Info warn error. When it is info, we can see info warn error. The remaining two got skipped. Debug and trace got skipped. If you run the same application in debug mode, debug as. There are no debug pointers, but if it is in a debug mode, acha, in log level, if it is a debug mode, then it might print debug also. If you change the configuration here from info to debug, still debug not showing. Is it not considering logging level equal to debug? You may see properly configured or not. Debug warn or trace. Still this one. Maybe it is not considering the configuration. You may check it, okay? Uh, Resources, application properties, and simple instead of log level. Debug and trace also, if I enable, see, as I kept both, lot of log generated, which is not generated before. Lot of internal debug and trace. See, lot of junk which is may not really required to us, but it is created. Where is my log? Somewhere it is exceeded. You may go here and check. That must be available in your log file. Console might exceeded that, right? Yeah. See, when we put trace, a lot of internal things it is showing. Skipping application.yml because we didn't configure YAML file, YAML or YML, XML. Already loaded resources. A lot of messages it is showing. When it is in trace mode, then only it is visible. I'm not sure where it ID. Maybe if you search with this message, right, you can find it in log file. Somewhere this must be created. Yeah. So this is the last instance that's where it printed, I believe. Not sure. 921 is one log. Yeah, maybe you can explore, okay, about different log levels. But this is how by default it will support. When you add log, right, it supports you with these different file names. Just if you can remember this, when there is a requirement to add logging, right, you can easily achieve it. In one of my application, while I was using Azure App Insights, that is Azure service, to create logs, okay, to create logs, that is a log server. I just simply added this logback file in my application. In this logback XML file, somewhere I given log file path, somewhere I given Azure path here, so that my application logs were directly dumped into Azure App Insights. So from there, I used to do log analysis instead of in a local machine, right? It will upload your log into a specific log server. Then it will be easy to analyze logs. Instead of local machine, we can configure any cloud-based Azure App Insights dashboard. Yeah, this is how the dashboard looks like. It will show all the logs, error logs, info logs. Yeah, so easily we can see failure request, how many requests got failure in last 1 hour, server response time, everything it will decode from your log. So we can see metrics and logs also we can read from this dashboard. Similarly, you might have various different log services. Okay, in Azure I used it. Maybe if you have AWS any log services, I don't know what service exactly available, but there must be similar services. AWS CloudWatch, is it the one? I'm not really sure. Okay, you can check. But in Azure, it looks like this. Why I'm showing you this is you need not to do any extra additional configurations. Maybe the Azure dependencies we may add in our application. But for logging, you need not to do any extra exercise. Just you need to use similar logback file. There you need to give that Azure path, Azure file path. Then automatically it will create logs in that particular path instead of local logging file. But this nothing extra we need to do here. Just a default starter will help us. Okay. So that's how we can use a default logging here. Default logging, which all frameworks it is supporting logback, log4j, and one more. Okay, log4j, logback it is supporting, and Java util logging also it is supporting. You can explore it. Okay, so you can explore other options if you want. And logging levels also they explained here. First is error on the very high level error is a high level one, and the next warning, then next info, debug, and trace maybe. You just go through this documentation and put whatever options you want. Okay, I think that's it for this logging. Tomorrow we will see web dependency and what all it is providing. Okay, Spring Boot starter web we will see. We will park it aside. Okay, okay. It will confuse you if you are not, aware it before. We will discuss this after all other dependencies. Okay, all other starters before microservices. I'll explain you. I hope it may not take much time, but it will create a different knowledge. Okay, yeah. Tomorrow we'll see web starter and what all options we have in web that we will explore. Okay.